since I was 8 years old was write Batman comics.
Michael forever changed the course of superhero movies.
I'm Michael Uslan, the originator and the executive producer of the Batman movie franchise. I'm a blue-collar kid from New Jersey. I didn't come from money. I didn't know anybody in Hollywood. How do you make your dreams come true? We are going to be bringing The Boy Who Loved Batman to the stage, and I hope it will inspire a lot of people to discover their passions in life, be relentless, knock on doors till their knuckles bleed, because you know what? The Batman movie franchise, that was born on the basis of my bloody knuckles.
Legion M is all about opening the gates to Hollywood. We are providing opportunities to come with us on the development process from the kernel of an idea up into the time that hopefully it premieres on stage. And there are big obstacles to get there, but we're working hard to make it happen.
Yes, Michael's story is about loving Batman, but it's about loving anything passionately.
We can all appreciate, after these many, many months of trial and hardship from the pandemic, a story that speaks to perseverance.
It took us 10 years to get our first Batman movie made. 10 years of being told my ideas were lousy. 10 years of being told you're no good. You've got to look deep inside yourself and go, okay now, is everybody right and I'm just being stubborn? Or do I really, truly, totally believe in this and believe in myself?
Michael is a master storyteller.
You will feel like you can do anything.
The Boy Who Loved Batman, the play, will do what I tried to do in the memoir, in the book. And that is to inspire you and to make you believe in yourself and that you can make your dreams come true. And to let you know that it's okay to dream big. If you're a fan like me and you think this is going to be really, really wonderful, come on aboard and we'll take this journey together.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining us today on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook. And welcome to one of our very few and far between but exciting live streams that we have to discuss one of our awesome upcoming projects. We're going to be talking about Darknights and Daydreams, our play that's in development based on Michael Uslan's memoir, The Boy Who Loved Batman. And here to talk with us today, we not only have our amazing members of Legion M, Mandy Bardisbanian, our head of merchant licensing, Terry Luberoff, our COO and head of content, and we have the boy who loved Batman himself, Michael Uslan. Thank you and welcome to the stream. Thanks for being with us today.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, it's great to be here with my fellow Bat fans and my fellow comic book geeks. Once again, I feel like a sense of community that I'm home again. It's great.
Well, you're definitely among a multitude of fans, I have to say. Legion M, obviously, as you know, is like a huge community of fans who love comics, movies, television, and everything. And I believe you would describe yourself as perhaps the ultimate fan, Michael. Am I right? Of comics, at least, or the
Yeah, I'll explain that. I'll plant a flag in that one for sure. You have to understand a little bit about my background, which is that my mom said I learned to read before I was 4 years old from comic books. And that by the time I graduated high school, I had over 30,000 comic books dating back to 1936 that completely filled my parents' garage. We moved into a new house, and from day one, my dad never got his car in the garage. It was floor to ceiling comic books. He built shelves around 3 walls of the garage. It was all comic books. Back in when I was about 13 years old, my folks took me and my friend Bobby to the world's first big Comic-Con ever held in this Fleabag Hotel in New York City. And there's a zillion stories about that alone that could be shared. So yeah, that's my whole background, just starting out. And I'll just add one more thing. And that is I was fortunate enough to grow up just by Asbury Park, New Jersey. And I was an hour from New York City. So when fandom started to get organized and these things called fanzines were starting to be published, I wanted to write for them, and I took advantage of it. So at every time I was off from school, my mom or my dad would take me and my friend Bobby to New York to go on the DC Comics tour on Tuesday afternoons. There's a great story about me and Marvel back in those days. I went to every comic book company that was in existence, and almost all of them were in New York. And I interviewed the writers, the artists, the editors, the publishers of all of them. And I got the entire history of comics from the golden age, how these characters were created, how these comic book companies started and why. And it was fascinating getting it straight from the horse's mouth. And at that point in time, almost all the creators and executives from the 1930s, 40s, 50s, and 60s either lived in New Jersey, lived in Manhattan, or lived on Long Island. So my dad, who worked 6 days a week, would often give up his Sundays and drive me to the homes of these different people I had arranged to meet with them and interview them. So my entire understanding of the history of comics comes directly from the creators themselves.
That's fantastic. I mean, it's also so amazing to hear how supportive your family was of your passion at such a young age, especially, you know, giving up the garage and the space and the time to take, you know, you did the interviews and everything. I think that's really amazing. And would you say that that sort of also influenced your sort of trajectory, do you think? Like,
oh, it didn't just influence it, it defined it. I mean, you talk to my older brother, Paul, he'll tell you the same thing. Our parents sacrificed everything for us. Period, end of story.
That's
to make
amazing.
sure we had a great education. The fact that my brother was crazy and I was this strange, geeky, weird kid, and they bent over backwards to accommodate our desires and needs and the things we loved in life and what we were passionate about. Couldn't have done it without them. You have to understand in the context of the times, when I was growing up in the 50s and 60s, comic books were under attack, especially in the 50s. Wortham's book, Seduction of the Innocent, had come out, and most of my friends were completely forbidden from ever bringing a comic book into the house because everyone thought they created a generation of juvenile delinquents. And of course, there's the infamous Wortham quote that comic books cause asthma because children were staying indoors to read them instead of playing outside in the fresh air. They were under attack. And yet my mom sat down and she actually read them. And she turned to me and said, here's the deal. You keep these things neat in your room, and you promise me you're going to read other things like books and magazines and newspapers, and you can keep collecting and reading comic books. Greatest deal I ever made in my life.
that's fantastic.
She didn't drive too hard of a bargain, it sounds like.
We have a lot of people in the chat who are saying hello. Hi to Alexis Machine. Hi, Sonia Avi3. Let's see. Oh, also, I believe that's Twixted Chaos says literally dove into comics head first, which is amazing. I assume when you first got into comics. That's so great. Thanks, everyone, for being here today. Down to business. The Boy Who Loved Batman. We're turning it into hopefully a Broadway play, at the very least a stage play. So, Michael, would you mind, for anyone who perhaps hasn't read your memoir or isn't familiar with your story, would you mind giving them just sort of, if possible, I know there's so many interesting details kind of packed into your life story, obviously, but just sort of a brief explanation of sort of you starting out as this ultimate comic fan and then deciding that you wanted to not only purchase the rights to Batman, but then go on to, you know, struggle through the Hollywood process to and make your vision for Batman come to the screen.
Taylor, there's something you first must understand about me when you ask me that question. The word brief not go along with asking me to talk about comic books. I will go off on tangents. It's going to be very difficult to shut me up. So we're going to do this like a secret origin. I am going to bestow on you a superpower that will enable you to interrupt me at any time without me getting off about it or feeling you were shocking my sensibilities. So here's my story. down to its simplest, and we'll go from there. What do you do when you have a passion that's literally burning through your veins? I'm a blue-collar kid from New Jersey. My dad was a stonemason. My mom was a bookkeeper. I didn't come from money. I was a total comic book fan, collector, reader. I collected everything. I bought everything. And I actually have a hard time today understanding. I can't comprehend that there are people who love Marvel and hate DC, or love DC and hate Marvel. I loved everything. I bought not only those, I bought the dinky little companies that were around at the time. I bought Archie. I bought Richie Rich. I bought Classics Illustrated. I read and collected absolutely everything because I loved comic books. I didn't just love superheroes, and I didn't just love DC or Marvel. I loved it all. And man, when I was 8 years old, Batman was it for me. By the time I was 8, maybe it was 7, could have been 6, I fell in love with Batman. Originally, it was too scary for me, and I stuck to Superman when I was first starting out at the tender age of 4 and 5. But at a more sophisticated 7 or 8, I realized something amazing. And that was, unlike Spidey, or unlike the Hulk, or unlike Superman, I could really identify with Batman. I did believe in my heart of hearts at age 8 that if I studied really hard, if I worked out every day, and if my dad bought me a cool car, I could be this guy. Because he had no superpowers. His greatest superpower is his humanity. I really believed it. I bought it hook, line, and sinker. And so from about the time I was age 8, all I wanted to do in life was write Batman comics. That was my dream. And I was fortunate in the twists and turns of life. And when I say twists and turns, you know what the twists and turns are? You know how your dreams come true? When if you're like me, you dream about writing Batman comics, but you don't know any pros in the business. I didn't even at age 8 realize there were actually human beings that wrote these things. I later dreamed of showing the world the true Batman created by Bill Finger and Bob Kane in 1939, the dark creature of the night, and bring it to life as a dark and serious movie. But to have these kinds of dreams, how do you get there from here? It was learning that the first step, once you identify your passion, is to get up off the damn couch. And that most people don't. Most young people don't. Look, I've lectured, I've spoken about this at hundreds of universities all around the world. And I found that the last couple of generations in particular, there's this like sense of entitlement. There's a sense that the world owes everybody something, and the world's going to come to them. And in my experience, and I hate to generalize, but I'm going to do it anyway, it's only like 15% of younger people are getting up off the damn couch and being proactive to make something happen, to follow their passion. So you jump off that couch. Your competition in life to accomplish your dreams is 15%. It's not 100% anymore. Your chance of success just skyrocketed. That's what I found. I also found something else out. It's the only thing I can guarantee every college student when they get out of college. Absolute guarantee. Doors are going to slam in your face. And when they do, I've also learned the hard way, there's only 2 choices you have. You can go home and cry about it, or you pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and go back and knock again, knock again, knock again. You may have seen a theme like this in Batman Begins, possibly. The Batman movie franchise was built on my bloody knuckles. So that was what started me out. And the last thing I'll say on this is that I couldn't have accomplished it unless I had this amazing support system. And I had superheroes in my life. I had real life superheroes. I had my mom and my dad. I had my brother, Paul. Then I had 2 teachers who literally changed my entire life. I had a mentor when I set out in business in the movie industry who became my partner in Batman. I had Stan Lee, Denny O'Neil, Julie Schwartz, Saul Harrison from DC, all became mentors of mine along the way. And there is simply no way I could have gotten there without the guidance, support, and mentorship of these critical people in my life. I was very lucky.
It's amazing. And so I believe also from your memoir, one of the things that sort of pushed you forward to do that, to get up off the couch, wasn't it also Adam West's Batman, or the original Batman series on television that was so different from the comics, I believe, that you had been reading, that sort of pushed you to say, oh, you know, I would like to render this out in a different way on screen, perhaps, or and then to go from there. So is that also the truth, or is there something else?
That's the truth, but it's important in this day and age that I set it up in the context of its time. Adam and I met on a panel at San Diego Comic-Con a number of years ago. And on that panel, sitting next to Adam, he said, you know, it was to this effect: I didn't realize it back then, but there's room for more than one interpretation of Batman in the world. And I want you to know, Michael, that I really respect and love what you have done with Batman. And at that point, I looked at Adam West sitting next to me and I said, Adam, if you'll allow me, just for a moment, I would like to let 8-year-old Michael out. I looked at him and I said, oh my God, it's the 1960s TV Batman. Holy shit. And with that, everybody cracked up. He got up, gave me a bear hug. I gave him a bear hug back, and all was well with the world. So now let me take you backwards. In 1966, January 1966, a cold night, the Batman TV show premiered. I'd been waiting for it for months. I was simultaneously thrilled and horrified by what I was seeing on TV. And there's a reason for it that you have to understand in the context of the times. At that moment in time, ladies and gentlemen, that was the one and only interpretation of Batman out in the public. That was it around the world. It was that. And as a hardcore Batman fan who understood and knew his entire history, because I'm one of probably today, maybe there's 2 of us left standing who met Bill Finger. And talk with Bill Finger. And I did twice.
Amazing.
And I sat with Bill in a sketchy bar in a skeezy hotel in New York City as he told me how Batman was created. I was 13 and a half years old. I will never forget it. That changed my life too. It set me on a whole special course. So when the TV show came on the air, and I'm going, oh, that animation, it kind of looks like Bob Kane, Jerry Robinson art. Wow, it's in color. Ooh, the sets, somebody's spending a lot of money on these sets. There's the Batmobile, it looks so great. It looks really, really cool. And about 20 minutes into it, it hits me. Oh my God, this is a comedy. They're making a joke out of Batman. The whole world is laughing at my Batman, and that killed me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting.
And that very night, with my friends Bobby and Barry in my downstairs den, I made a vow. I made a vow like young Bruce Wayne once made a vow, except my parents were safe upstairs in the kitchen. And I said, somehow, someday, I am going to show the world the true Batman, the one Bill Finger told me about, the one that he and Bob Kane had created in 1939 as the Batman, this creature of the night who stalks psycho criminals from the shadows. And I knew I was now going to have to find a way to erase from the collective consciousness of the world culture these 3 new words, pow, zap, and wham, which were suddenly everywhere and would haunt Batman for the next 60 years.
And
that was my motivation. You got to understand what my motivation was. Today, I embrace the show because we have so many different interpretations of Batman now, not just one. You've got the movies, and every time we get a new director, it's a different concept. It's a different presentation of Batman, a different vision. We have Lego Batman. We have Batman the Animated Series. and a brand new animated series they got coming that's going to be incredible. Batman Brave and Bold. There are so many different interpretations of Batman that I say, hey, bring that series back. What a great way to introduce young kids into Batman, where eventually they can grow and evolve into the comic books, into our movies, into the video games. So I think it's a great thing now.
Absolutely, yeah. It's so exciting just that, especially now with all of the different versions, like you're saying, just, well, I'm sorry, I just dropped something off my desk. Yeah, it's really kind of neat to even just sort of look back, especially, you know, not only with nostalgia, but with love for those old series as well. And so I would like to transition and start to talk a little bit about the adaptation of the play. So obviously it's an amazing story. It's really exciting. One thing that I know that you touch on in the video that we produced is that it took 10 years for you to move from acquiring the rights to Batman to actually bringing it to the screen. And now that story of that perseverance is going to be rendered out on the stage. And so Terry and Mandy, could you talk a little bit about Legion M's involvement in the stage play and our pursuit of bringing it to Broadway?
Well, first of all, Michael, thank you so much for your time today. It's always my favorite thing is when we get to sit down and you get to regale us with your stories about growing up and Batman. And from a personal perspective, the reason why I love your story and your memoir so much, and you have a brilliant memory, so I don't have to even ask if you remember this, but we were sitting at Nate and Al's deli when you first told me the story of your memoir. And by the end of your story, I was a blubbering idiot with tears rolling down my face. I was completely embarrassed because I could not help myself. But the themes that you touch on, you know, about family supporting you and teachers who changed your life, and, you know, how it wasn't just you, but it was this village of people who all participated in your growth and in your adolescence and kind of guided you in a way to be the person that you are, the amazing human that you are, that got you to what you became, was so profound for me. And I connected with it on such an emotional level because I could see myself and I recognized my own parents in your story, and my 8th grade English teacher, Mrs. Wetzel, who made me into the writer I am today. And it's, I think, so universal for so many of us to have those experiences throughout our lives. And it's such an inspirational moment to be able to reflect on how we all become who we are. And not only that, but how we all have dreams and how we can chase those dreams. And it doesn't have to be, they don't have to be dreams like I want to work in the movie business. They can be dreams like I want to become a therapist, or I want to become a doctor, or I'd like to help people and be a nurse on the front lines. There are so many interpretations of someone's dream. And the reason why I connected with it as a development executive at Legion M is because Legion M is just, our entire community is about dreamers. It's about helping people realize that they have the power to have a voice, they have the power to dream, and they can change things. And that's exactly what you did. So the reason why Legion M is involved is because of that. And we're so excited to be helping with this project and can't wait to see how it all turns out.
Thank you, Terry. It's been kind of you. Thank you.
Absolutely. So,
yeah,
you know, a couple things that I will add on to that incredible thing. I was actually going to say the exact same thing. The reason why this synergy is so amazing between Legion M and the development of this play is because that's what Legion M is all about, is bringing together a bunch of dreamers that want to work together to bring amazing stories to life. And that is literally what all this is about. And you did it, Michael. Like you like, not only did you like go so hard and you never took no for an answer, but you did what you sought out to do. And that is just an incredible thing. So yes, we are offering, you know, thankfully out of you know the kindness of everyone's hearts and the ability to develop this play the way it's being developed, we are able to bring people into the process and be able to kind of come along, you know, on this quest to Broadway. as we're calling it, because it definitely is a quest. And we have an Indiegogo in order to help bring people into that process. And with that, we have everything from being, as simple as being a founding fan, as we call it, at the $10 level, where you will be invited to 2 Zoom meetings where we will discuss, the development of the play. We'll have roundtable discussions, things like that are really exciting, all the way up to being able to come to the reading of the play. Michael, do you want to talk a little bit about what a reading is?
Yeah, sure. Well, first of all, I got to tell you, I feel like I'm watching PBS right now.
It does feel that way.
It does, but hey.
For you to take home if you...
This adorable tote bag.
And how about this really cool new shirt?
Oh, that's awesome.
That is an awesome shirt.
That is neat.
Yeah. Here's one of the things that I really love about this. Those of you who are listening in right now, maybe you're starting to get a clue here. I am a fanboy, okay? I just graduated, okay? I am one of you. I am not some Hollywood studio suit. I'm not somebody who's paid a bunch of money in PR or marketing to get up in front of Hall H and say things off of a cue card.
Yeah.
Everything I say and everything I do comes from my heart and comes from an entire lifetime devoted to comic books, and not just comic books and not just superheroes. And I want to make this point. This play is also about the writers, the artists, the creators who spent most of their careers marginalized, denigrated, forgotten, dismissed, attacked. Stan Lee, who I first met when I was 11 years old, told me that in the 50s and 60s, he would be invited to a cocktail party with a bunch of la-di-das in New York City. And he would go to these cocktail parties, and he always just stood there in fear of people coming up to him, and sure enough, they would, and they'd start a conversation, and they'd say, "So, Stanley, what do you do?" And Stan said, I would say to them, "I'm in the publishing business," and then he would walk away. He says, well, sure enough, they would follow him over. And they would say, "Oh, in the publishing business. Well, what sort of children's literature?" And with that, he would walk away. Says, no. Follow him. And they would say, "Well, specifically, what kind of children's literature do you do?" And Stan said, I would look at him and say, "I write comic books." and that's kind of what this is all about. It's to also bring attention to all of those people. And most of them are gone now, but their kids are here. Their grandkids are here. They're just of us, but of the world at large, the world culture. And for me, fighting, I was the world's first ever accredited college course professor of comic books. I taught, I think, the world's first correspondence course. We have the Smithsonian Institution's edX course on Rise of the Superheroes. I have an honorary doctorate degree in comic books. I mean, I have been an advisor to and helped set up things like the museum, Metropolitan Museum of Art's exhibition that they had, and many, many others. Because I wanted to see comic books and original art hanging in well-known museums, hanging in universities, hanging in galleries, and we've come such a long way. And I think so many of these creators' families are getting so much out of that. I think that's really important too. So this is the introduction, the preamble to what is a reading. I warned you about my tangents. So
I love it. I love it. I'm here for it.
I've written the script, and I'm working with a team of phenomenal creative people. And we are working the script and working the script. And then we are working the script and working the script. And at keystone moments, we do readings. The readings include, you might invite prospective investors, you might invite prospective strategic partners, and you may even invite a few normal people who can actually give you an emotional reaction to what's being done. And those are the purposes of the readings that we do. So we've got a reading coming up in New York, we've got a reading coming up in LA, which are critical. it's critical to our getting to the next step, to the next step, to the next step, which will then lead us to Broadway. And I'm very optimistic, and I feel great about it, and I feel great about the team that's working on this. Everybody gets it. There's not one person involved in here that doesn't get it. And you know, you hear about like the Niederlander organization. You know, these folks and the Schuberts, they like control Broadway. I mean, it's incredible, and they are so totally supportive of this, and understand the theme of it, and why it's important to me and to us, and hopefully to you. And because I'm a fellow fanboy, it would be really special, I think, to have other fans with me on this journey. So I really invite you into the inner sanctum, to our version of the Justice League's secret sanctum up at the satellite, or to the Avengers Mansion, or the X-Men School, or the Fortress of Solitude, or the Batcave, and need I go on and on? In the play itself, one of the set pieces is my treehouse as a kid that my dad built in my backyard. That was my first secret sanctum. That was my first place I could escape to fall into the world and be enveloped by the world of comic books and superheroes. And I had my Cub Scout flashlight up there. So I would even go up there at dusk to do it. It was a place that I could hide some of my comic books from my brother, who, you know, once he got his hands on some of those things, they disappeared. I had my revenge on him with his baseball cards, but that's another story. And but I love the idea of my fellow fans being part of this process and going through it with me.
It's going to be so exciting to have everyone have the ability to give feedback potentially on some of the creative processes that they'll be involved in. Terry, could you describe a little bit about how fans have sometimes influenced the development process in the past with other projects, and how they might be able to get involved this time as well?
Oh, that's such a good question. We have a feature film script called Girl with No Name, which won Slamdance. And it's a fabulous script, but because it's a Western, the director and our producing partner on it were having trouble getting the financing for it. And they came to Legion M and said, "You guys are filled with fans. Do you have ideas?" And we ended up publishing a comic book. And our whole goal with this comic book was to bring fans into the process. So we put it up on Kickstarter just for pre-sales, and said anyone who participates in this campaign will come along for the ride in our development process. And so we had an online development meeting, a Zoom meeting with our director and the producer. And, you know, this was after the book was published, and people gave us amazing feedback about what they responded to and what they didn't. And in fact, it took a while to percolate, but the director was so impressed with the feedback from the people who participated in the campaign. We ended up doing a rewrite for the script, and the script it was already a great script, but it's even better. So that's how that process worked. We have other things we're doing on this process, with the readings, the ability to come on board for knowledge about the development process of Broadway shows, which I think is a little opaque for a lot of people. And I'm a theater kid. I was a theater major in college, and it's opaque for me. So just the idea of being able to sit down with Bob Niederlander and his amazing team, and the director and the dramaturg, everybody, and have them explain, okay, this is how it works and these are the steps. I mean, it's pulling back the curtain on something that's really, you don't get this opportunity very often. So I'm stoked, and I think anybody who is interested in learning the process behind how all of that works will really enjoy participating.
It's going to be very exciting. I think it's really, really interesting, especially nowadays with everything opening back up, and how even the process of developing a play post-COVID may even change just that little bit more. You never know. It's really kind of an interesting time, especially to be a part of the development process of a live play as well. So there's a couple of questions coming in from the chat. First, obviously, is some can hear a cat in the background. Guess who's got the cat? Guess who it is. That's your challenge, audience. It's definitely not my cat in the background. But let's see. So sort of in the theme of dreams and goals and accomplishing your goals, we had a question come in from Just Joshing Around that says, I've always been fascinated with the entertainment business. Does Michael have any thoughts on how to try to get into the film industry, sort of behind the scenes? How do you make a network with people in the business? It sounds like you started without knowing anyone as well. Do you have any insights into that, Michael?
Yeah, if you're interested in the entertainment business, movies, television, streaming, run while you can. Get into your father's bakery business, for God's sake. Now, needless to say, this can be a long and painful process of commitment and perseverance. But you know what? Coming out of COVID, for those in old Hollywood who think normal is returning, they're going to be sadly mistaken. There is a new normal that is evolving in the industry. And the good news is, I mean, there's a lot of bad in terms of companies that have gone away or will go away, some theater chains that might go away, but it's all going to evolve in a different way. Streaming is going to be increasingly important. Globalization is going to be important. Ultimately, AR and VR are going to be important. And the good news is there's now new opportunities. There's opportunities for young people as well as some older people. There's opportunities now that there just really hadn't been a lot of for women, for people with diverse backgrounds. The doors have swung open finally, and let's hope really truthfully. And people who I don't think would have had the breaks before are getting opportunities to write things. They're getting opportunities to direct things. Corporations are opening their doors to new ideas. Look at all of new media generally. I've been to some of these quote unquote new media companies in New York and LA. Not only am I the oldest person in the entire building, but my son is the second oldest person in the entire building. They are looking for new voices, new perspectives, and that creates a great opportunity. But guess what? You can't do it if you're sitting in your bedroom in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. You've got to roll the dice at some point in time. You've got to get out to LA or maybe New York or maybe Chicago, or maybe if not Oshkosh, maybe it's the CBS affiliate in Madison, Wisconsin. You know, a place to get your foot in the door where you see a door open just a little bit. And that takes initiative. And that takes never taking no for an answer and being relentless. I don't mean being annoying. There's a difference between being annoying and being relentless. But Jesus, if I could do it, you know, a blue collar kid from New Jersey, I knew no one in Hollywood. I had no relatives in Hollywood. I didn't come from money, and I was able to do it. But I learned, I said, okay, this is gonna be like a war. I'm gonna go out every day and fight another battle, and I'm gonna fight to get my foot in the door, and I'm gonna fight for my projects. No, that's not what it is. It's a siege, is what it is. And if you wanna be successful in this business, if you wanna make it, you gotta dig a foxhole. And then you gotta hunker down and put a helmet on your head. And the most important decision you're gonna make is who do you allow in that foxhole to watch your back? That's kind of how it operates. The opportunities are there. And if you're an older person and you're concerned since COVID, you've lost your job, or there's new tech now, or audiences are changing so quickly, or you don't quite understand what's happening with social media, you have an opportunity to reinvent yourself the way Batman reinvents himself. Think about all the times over the years Batman has been reinvented. He has been, I don't care if you talk about the comic books, cartoons, movies, he has been reinvented from one extreme to the other extreme. So you got to do the same thing. If you're 40 and you feel like you're kind of going nowhere fast, you got to push yourself out of your comfort zone. It's the toughest damn thing to do. But if you can manage to do that, you can find new opportunities. and a way to just change what you're doing and how you're doing it and how you're presenting yourself. Those kinds of opportunities, I don't think have ever been better than coming out of COVID right now into this brave new world.
Yeah, it's really kind of fascinating to see how things have changed, especially with the rise of social media as well. Just the ability to, and to have, you know, many people have a movie studio in their pocket, just with the ability to shoot in 4K and record amazing things. I've shot music videos on my phone in the past. And so just having the ability to kind of have a place where you can also go and post things to your own personal forum, and in some ways just not even have to rely in some cases on someone giving you that yes. Just saying yes to yourself and going out and putting something on YouTube is also possible now, which is really kind of exciting.
Taylor, can I just say a word to the creatives out there, to people who are writers, filmmakers? You know, anybody can have creative ideas. In fact, virtually everybody has creative ideas. What's important is if you're serious about, for example, becoming a writer, you can't just jot down creative ideas and expect to sell them. You need to take the time and make the effort to master the craft of writing. It's a craft. And Terry's 8th grade teacher helped her understand writing as a craft. My 7th and 8th grade English teachers helped me understand writing as a craft that involves self-discipline, understanding structure, understanding dialogue, and I mean, the list goes on and on. There's everything from courses to self-help books. And there are sources out there to master the craft of writing. And I'll tell you something, every year I go back to my alma mater, Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana, and I teach 2 courses, intensive courses for 3 weeks in the media school. And every year I start my class exactly the same way. I've got all my students sitting out there, all their devices are in front of them. And I said, there are 10 rules to making a successful motion picture. And they quickly get ready with all their devices. Said the 10 rules for making a successful motion picture are: number 1, story. Number 2, story. Number 3, story. 4, story. 5, story. 6, character. 7, character. 8, character. 9, story. And 10, story. That's something a lot of writers and a lot of filmmakers and a lot of movie execs, studio execs, don't quite comprehend.
11 explosions. And 1 explosion in every single one. Yeah, it's exciting, you know, because there's a good quote that I think Angela Duckworth does in her book called Grit, where she talks about the formula for achievement is effort plus talent equals skill, and then skill plus effort equals achievement. And the idea is that effort is present in both of the equations to reach that. And so, yeah, it's neat because in a lot of ways, I love something that you also say in your book, or at least that you repeated to me at one point during your recording session with me when we were making the video, which was sort of the idea that it's not about, you know, where you come from or what you want to do. It's just about putting in that effort and making it happen, which is so kind of inspiring because it does it makes it possible, you know, in a lot of ways. So Rory Ross in the chat has said, just got the $250 package. Thank you, Rory. Super appreciate that. And also, good to talk to you. It's been forever since we've done one of these live streams. And he's excited for Michael to do a personal video to his best friend who absolutely loves Batman. And it's probably the best birthday gift between the personal greeting and the LA table reading. So he is stoked. And also, it seems like it might be your birthday in the chat. So happy birthday to you, my friend.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. And even if it's not, you have a birthday at some point. So happy birthday to you.
Now, that $250 package, is that the one where I have to wash their cars?
Could be. I think that...
Yeah, I mean, it might also be the one where you're going to, like, go clean their bathroom, too. You know.
Exactly. Yes.
Got it.
Amazing. So let's see. Also, another comment that came in from Jacked Stuff. Michael, my mom is a few years older than you and also did not like the TV show when it came out because she thought it was too silly, but it's grown on her and she appreciates it more. And yeah, which is
And again, it comes back to context of the times.
absolutely.
It truly does.
Yeah.
But hey, when I was 15 or 14 and a half when it came on, and I saw the Joker had a mustache under his makeup, that the bat poles had labels on them, besides all the pow zap and wham stuff, I couldn't deal with it.
Saul, you know who else is in the chat is Matt Conkling, one of our superstar Legion M investors. For those who don't know, Matt Conkling's car was the picture car in Arch Enemy, which is super exciting, and he's always at the events that we get to do when we're allowed to do events, so can't wait to see Matt again. But Matt says, let me pull this back up. I can attest to it being a good time to get into the business. Hollywood has been my only income for the last several months. And as hard as it's been to get gigs, I've been on so many amazing sets, and it all started with Legion M. Oh, thanks, Matt. And getting my butt off the couch every day. Well, yeah, awesome. It's great to hear that you're getting work, especially.
Matt is like the poster child of get off your butt and follow your dreams.
Yeah.
I mean,
We have a Matt Conkling Award that we give out to other people when they when they achieve things like what Matt Conkling
We
does.
legitimately do. That's a real thing.
Yeah, I
Matt,
can't wait.
I am officially giving you a superhero name. You are now Get Off Your Butt Man.
I love that.
Yes.
I'm just imagining the costume for that.
Incredible thighs.
You know, I have to just echo all of this really quickly because I like personally, like, okay, I also grew up on a horse ranch, and you know, like there was not a whole lot of like dreams to be had, right? But I knew I wanted to be like somehow in fashion or entertainment and like out in a big city, and so I'm just like I'm not gonna say anything different than everyone else has said. I just have to reiterate the fact that like Michael, your story right now is so important, especially after such a hard year and a half, and we all need inspiration, and we all have had time to sit and think about our dreams, and so now it is time to get off our butts. And I'm just so thankful that, you know, to be a part of this, because personally, like, your story means so much to me that that I'm just so happy the world gets to share it. You know, like that. A little sob moment for you, but like I just had to get it off my chest.
Very much.
Yeah, very excited for this play to come to the stage.
Yes.
And so I know we have only a few more minutes of time left, so if you have any questions for Michael or for the Legion M team, please send them to us in the chat. We're monitoring the chat as we go. And yeah, thank you especially for everyone for watching. So I suppose maybe just another question that I'm kind of curious about is just a little bit about the play itself. Can you share any internal details about how it's being developed, any interesting technology that might be used during it, size?
Yes, at the end of Act 1, I get bitten by a radioactive spider. That was interesting. No, this is not.
Taylor was like, really?
Well,
Wrong superhero,
this
Taylor.
did take a turn.
If there's one thing it ain't Spider-Man on Broadway.
Do you have wires? Is the question. Will there be an aerial scene at all?
No, it is going to be very down to earth, very much feet on the ground, and you know, it's a story. I mean, come on, really. How does a kid in his 20s wind up buying the rights to Batman from DC Comics? Now, without the context of the times, without hearing the backstory to this, anybody listening to this has got to say the same thing. It's impossible. It's inconceivable. Yet the story, which will come out in the play, comes down to one absolutely unglamorous answer. And that is, I was the only person on the planet Earth who showed up. And I had a vision for it. I raised money privately, and I had the credibility. I had worked at DC Comics. They all knew me. They all understood I loved Batman. I loved comic books. I loved DC. And that I was not out to do a hatchet job, that I was not out to do one more funny potbelly pow zap wham comedy version of Batman, that this time it was going to be done seriously. And I talk about our pitches to the studios. Here we buy the rights to Batman. And it took 10 years from the time we bought the rights to Batman before that first movie came out. 10 years. And I was turned down by every single studio in Hollywood. I was told I was crazy. You can't do dark superheroes. You're nuts. You can't do serious comic book movies. You're out of your mind. You can't make movies out of old TV series. That's never been done. And my final rejection at a studio came when they told me, no, too much competition out there from other superhero movies. I go, wait a minute. No, there's not. I said, outside of Superman, what else is there? And the guy looks at me and he goes, well, Columbia, they're spending millions now on Annie. I said, wait a minute, Annie? Are you talking about that little red-headed girl from Broadway who sings, tomorrow, tomorrow? He goes, exactly. I go, what does Annie have to do with Batman? And he looked at me dismissively and said, come on, Michael. They're both out of the funny pages. And that was my rejection. That was my final rejection from the studios. That's what I had to deal with. You got to understand, back then, Hollywood, the establishment, I don't care if you're talking about agents, executives, talent pool, they were part of the Wortham generation. They were part of the generation that believed either comic books were just for little kids, or at worst, comic books were possibly harmful and lurid for little kids. And that the only, one and only, comic book property capable of being made into a big budget blockbuster movie was Superman. Nothing else had value. Nothing Marvel. Batman had already done his thing on TV. Not Wonder Woman, not Justice League, only Superman. And that's what I had to deal with going in. There was disrespect for comics, superheroes, and their creators rampant all over town. And that took years and years and years to try to overcome that prejudice, that bias against comics. And it was difficult. Let me tell you something. It tests your mettle as a human being when you go through 10 years of rejection and everyone's saying, your idea sucks. No, this is horrible. Your work is horrible. I mean, you got to look deep inside and say, okay, is everybody in the world wrong? And alternatively, is everybody in the world right? And I'm just being stubborn. But I kept coming up with the same answer. I believe in myself. I believe in this. And I never doubted it for one moment in those 10 years. Even when I had no money and didn't know how I was going to pay next week's bills, never mind next month's bills, and how I was going to survive hanging on by my fingertips to get through 10 years. 10 years. I want everybody to close your eyes for a second. I want you to think, where were you 10 years ago?
Not here.
That's how long 10 years is. It's an eternity.
It's a long time. And then it changed the way that we look at superhero movies. From, now comics are a treasure trove of stories that are adapted. So it's fascinating to see just sort of how the industry changes once they see it actually happen,
Let's put a spotlight here and give credit where credit is due. Two geniuses, Tim Burton, Anton Furst. It was Tim Burton who had the big idea. I always call it the big idea. This is all my reflection on it, how I interpreted it. It was Tim who said, if we're going to do the first revolutionary movie about a comic book superhero and expect it to be taken seriously, and we're going to do it in a dark way, this movie can't be about Batman, which is the moment I melted into the ground. But then he said, this movie has to be about Bruce Wayne. That's the whole key. Audiences have to believe in Bruce Wayne, or else they'll never believe in a guy getting dressed up as a bat, fighting a guy like the Joker. And Gotham City, the world building, it's got to be the third most important character in the piece. And he was so right. When I say big idea, and then Anton designing Gotham City and the Batmobile and the whole look of the picture, I contend to this day that every single genre picture, till right now, has been influenced by Tim Burton's vision, by Anton Furst's design, and even by Danny Elfman's notes. It's had an impact. It changed Hollywood. it changed the comic book industry. It changed the world culture's perception of comic books and superheroes. And that was amazing. And I mean, think of Marvel. All right, think of Marvel right now without Tim Burton's Batman in 1989. Really shouldn't be called Iron Man, those movies. They should be called Tony Stark. These Spider-Man movies we're seeing that are so great really should be called Peter Parker.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That all goes
You're
back
totally
to
right.
It's Tim Burton's idea.
You're so right. You're so right. And, you know, and it not only that, but, you know, it definitely changed, you know, Hollywood, it changed comic books, it changed all of that, yes. But it also changed how fans are able to see their fandom. So, for example, right, back in the day, whenever, you know, kids were reading comic books, you know, yourself included, it was nerdy. It was not cool. It was, you know, whatever. But you loved it, right? We loved it. That's all that mattered, is that we wanted to dive into these worlds, and the industry acknowledging that and giving them the budgets that they deserved and creating these worlds for us to visually see now, you know, like that gave us as fans the ability to dive further into the worlds that we loved and the characters that are our friends, right? And for me as a fan, that's the best part about it, is like, I can read something, I can love it, I can whatever, but I want to dive further. Like, get me into that movie and take me into that world, you know, in an even larger way than just, you know, on paper. And that's, you know, that's the bigger part, right? Is that we as fans get to experience more of it.
Oh, it's true. And Batman 89 and everything that's come since in the genre, Batman and otherwise, made comic books mainstream. When I was growing up reading comic books, it was subversive. I reveled in it. I embraced that, and I miss it. I actually miss that part of it all. When I was in high school and girls found out I was still reading and collecting comic books, I became what I would call date challenged, because it was considered so utterly uncool. The idea that we could get females in a superhero movie in a theater was almost unheard of. I go back to that first big Comic-Con in New York. There were 200 of us meeting there, face to face for the first time, more like pimple to pimple for the first time. And I think it was 197 boys and 3 girls. And we were amazed there were 3 girls.
Really goes to show how far we've come.
Absolutely. And the 2 guys who put it on, one was like a high school senior, brilliant, who invented this whole concept pretty much. The question was, what are we going to do on Saturday night with like 197 guys and 3 girls? And they came up with the idea, let's just tell everyone to come dressed up as their favorite superheroes. And in my world, that Saturday night was the night cosplay was born. And I was there in my 1940s DC Comics Sandman costume, which my mom helped me make, in my full face gas mask and my orange fedora, purple cape, green double-breasted suit, yellow gloves. I mean, Sandman was really cool and he had great powers, but my God, the guy was clearly colorblind. But there's pictures of me. It was actually published in Castle of Frankenstein Annual number 2 from that Comic-Con, an actual picture of me in my Sandman costume. Okay, so all right, maybe I am. But yeah, it has changed everything, and everything that was is different now, mostly for the better.
To be a fly on the wall at that Comic-Con would have been so interesting. What an
Finger.
What's that?
That's where I met Bill Finger for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
He was in this sketchy bar with Otto Binder. And Otto Binder, he was the primary writer of the Marvel family in the golden age of comics, created Mary Marvel, the Marvel family, Black Adam. He's sitting there in the bar with this guy, and he invited me and Bobby as we're waving, Mr. Binder, big fans. You know, we come in and we're sitting at this bar. And we're 2 13-and-a-half-year-old kids. He says, what are you guys drinking? Yeah. And I was dressed as a Sandman. Yeah, so I'm sitting there in a full face gas mask. Okay, so Bobby, my friend Bobby, was dressed as a Shadow. And the guy says to Bobby, well, you know, the Shadow was like the biggest influence on the creation of Batman. And we both go, really? We didn't know that. Wow, that's interesting, sir. And Otto Binder turns to us and says, boys, you big Batman fans? We go, we're huge Batman fans. He goes, how'd you like to meet the creator of Batman? We go, wow, yeah. He goes, Bobby, Michael, meet Bill Finger. And that's where it happened for the first time.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Wow. Wow.
It's incredible. Sorry, Terry.
Oh, yeah. I was just gonna say, I love hearing these stories so much. I do feel like a fly on the wall. And when I read your book, and I know you have another one coming out, right?
Yeah, it'll be out around the first of the year. Yeah, the sequel. Boy, who loved it.
It really feels like we're along for the ride with you as you're telling these stories. So for anyone out there who's like, oh, I want to hear more, go get The Boy Who Loved Batman book and read it. It's one of my favorite memoirs ever.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You don't have to wait to see the play to hear the story. It's pretty amazing.
But the play, it's the same idea. I want you to take this ride with me. I want you to take this journey that I was on, which is exhilarating and incredibly painful and fun and magical and awful and terrific. And I want everybody to come along with me on this journey. And I hope and I think you get a lot out of it. And I think you'll be entertained by the stories. As I say, I'm not an actor. I only play one on the stage. But I am a storyteller. And I've got some really, really great stories to tell. If any of you have questions or comments along the way, you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. I'll tell you in advance, folks, if you come on and say, this sucks, I hate this person, blah, 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 I'm gonna hide you. But if you come on and offer anything constructive and interesting, you're part of my inner circle and we can have conversations. And that's kind of the way I work it. But it's great being involved with Legion M. You guys are awesome, and all the people with you are incredible. And I hope to have the opportunity through this to meet a lot of you, whether it's through Zoom or in person at a Comic-Con or wherever we might all get together again. I do appreciate you all, and I thank you guys for doing this.
Well, thank
You're
you.
amazing, Michael.
Yeah.
Thank
Appreciate you.
Thanks so much for coming on and answering everyone's questions. I know that we're just over time, but I have one last question from the audience, so if you don't mind. It's from Prospero154. Michael, what are the personal challenges that you must overcome even at this stage of your life to keep moving forward? And second, at the end of your journey, what is your personal goal to accomplish, like by the end of your career?
Okay, so COVID hits. And my industry is sitting there like this, going, oh my God, this is a catastrophe. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do for 16 months? Well, this is happening and everything stops and it's the end of the world. And I didn't look at it and say, this is a catastrophe. I looked at it and said, this is an opportunity. And I spent these 15 months writing my butt off. I wrote the sequel book to The Boy Who Loved Batman. I wrote the first draft of this stage play. I've actually, well, I can't even say that yet. I did other stuff.
So close.
In short order. And folks, I'm old, okay? I'm an old dude. And my kids help me with this, but I keep pushing myself out of my comfort zone. It's exactly what I was talking about before. I am technologically disabled. I can't even turn on my TV set unless my 4 or 5-year-old granddaughter is sitting next to me. But I force myself to learn about this stuff and to understand it and to make Mandy's life miserable. It's all part of what I do. but I understand the industry's changing and audiences are changing. I understand that the way I like to maybe enjoy a movie, I understand that while I'm bemoaning the fact that studios today no longer make Casablanca or The Maltese Falcon or Field of Dreams or Gone with the Wind, that they're doing certain kinds of movies only. And I bemoan the fact that too many seem to be aimed at American boys who play video games. And I'm not the biggest fan of everything cutting every second and a half, but I'm adapting. I'm adapting, and I'm trying to keep myself open to learning. And if there's anything in my journey that I've uncovered about myself, it was learning that when I was in high school and college, I knew everything. And I always told my parents that I knew everything. Mm-hmm. And as the years have gone by, with each passing year, I find I know less and less and less. And therefore, I'm hungry to learn more and more and more. And that's been a great part of the process. The last part of the question. So what do I want to do? Okay, I want to turn my passion into my work. I don't want to work just to work. I don't want to do that. I want to work on things I'm passionate about. What are my passions in life? They're comic books and superheroes and Batman. Rock and roll. History. As a history major, I love history. And often, if you go back over my resume or my bio, you will see how I've incorporated that other stuff into my life as well. So it's all about figuring out your passion, which may change over time, and making it into your work. And if you do that, it doesn't matter. Like right now, I'm working 20 hours a day, and my Saturdays resemble my Tuesdays. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't matter because I love what I'm doing. And that's a gift. That's an incredible gift that not many people have in life. So that's great. Second, my goal had been to restore the darkness and dignity to Batman. Next, to bring respectability and understanding to the world of comic books from the world culture, transcending borders as well as cultures. And lastly, as I mentioned before, to find a way to bring respect to those marginalized men and women who created the comics, who created the superheroes, who continue to do so, who published them, who edited them, who colored them, who lettered them. And that's been as important to me as bringing respect to the heroes that they've created. So I am, I'm really happy. I look back on my career. I look back on my life now, and bringing Batman to the screen aside, this is the most important, passionate thing I'm working on right now, is play. And I think we have to deliver it, and we have to deliver it in the best possible way. And that's what I'm committed to do.
Amazing. Well, we're so excited for you to have shared all of this with us today. And we're so excited to be on the ride as Darknights and Daydreams finally comes to the stage. I'm going to shoehorn in one last quick question. Favorite tool in the utility belt? This is from Mr. Casey Ray.
Well, first of all, until Julie Schwartz got his hands on Batman circa 1970, everything in the utility belt changed, because it just depended on what this lazy writer or that lazy writer happened to need at the moment. It just miraculously was there. And I think you found that being picked up by the TV series as well. But then Julie said, no, anyone writing for me is not going to have that kind of an out. We're going to define exactly what goes into the utility belt. I'll show you, hang on, I'm going to show you what Batman's favorite tool is. This is my favorite. This was my pop's trowel.
Oh, a trowel. Oh.
This is what my father, the stonemason, used to magically build the most beautiful fireplaces and chimneys and homes out of brick and marble. and stone and cement. This was my father's incredible tool of creativity. And his work is going to last for decades and maybe even centuries. And the sad thing was that I get to sign my work. When you see a movie, my name goes on it. My dad never got to sign his work. But there's nothing in Batman's utility belt any better or more useful or more important than this. And that's why this whole thing of what do you love? My dad loved being a stonemason. He was an old world artist. He was a craftsman. He woke up every morning before dawn with a big smile on his face and couldn't wait to get to work. He worked from the time he was 16 years old till he was 80, 6 days a week, whether it was snowing or 95-degree humidity in New Jersey, because he loved what he did. That's where I get it from. When you live in a house with somebody like that and see it every single day, how can you not wish for that? How can you not wish to wake up on a rainy Monday morning and say, boy, I can't wait to get to work? That's one of the many gifts my dad gave me. And Batman, you can't hold a candle to this.
Amazing. Michael, thank you so much again for sharing your afternoon with us. Terry, Mandy, thank you so much again for being here. We're so excited for the play. We can't wait to come along on the ride as we bring it to the stage. If you would like to be a part of the process, please join us on our Indiegogo page. We'll post that once again in the chat so that you can take a look and see if there's any kind of perk levels that you would like to be a part of, or even just to be a part of it in any capacity that you like. So please, and thank you very much for everyone who spent time watching this broadcast with us today. So yeah, thank you everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.